Right now, you're probably working a job, or preparing for one, or recovering from one. But for most of human existence, jobs didn't exist. No applications, no interviews, no 2-week notices. For roughly 290,000 years, modern humans lived without employment, without bosses, without the concept of a weekend. So what did they actually do all day? The answer isn't what you'd expect. Let's clear something up first. Ancient humans weren't lazy. They worked hard, but their work looked nothing like ours. There were no specialists. No one introduced themselves as a hunter or a gatherer like it was a career path. You did what needed doing, when it needed doing, and then you stopped. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have found something shocking. These groups, living similarly to our ancestors, work roughly 3 to 5 hours per day. That's it. The rest of the time? Social activities, rest, play, storytelling, making things, just existing. Compare that to the average modern worker. 8 hours at the office, commute time, checking emails at night. We call this progress. But here's what's strange. Early humans weren't constantly scrambling for survival. That's the myth we've been told. Archaeological evidence shows something different. They had abundant food sources in most regions. Hunting and gathering, when you know what you're doing, is efficient. You don't need 40 hours a week to feed yourself when you're eating what grows naturally around you. The Hadza people of Tanzania still live as hunter-gatherers. Researchers tracked their time. Men hunt for about 2 hours each morning. Women gather for 3 to 5 hours, usually in groups, talking the entire time. By afternoon, they're done. The evening is for socializing, games, music, and rest. Children play without structured activities. No one is optimizing their productivity. This wasn't poverty. This was abundance. Ancient humans had something we've completely lost. They had time. Massive amounts of unstructured, unhurried time. Time to develop intricate knowledge of their environment. Time to create art. The oldest known cave paintings are over 40,000 years old. These weren't made by professionals during work hours. They were made by people who had the time to create beauty for its own sake. They made jewelry from shells and bones. They carved flutes from vulture wings. They told stories complex enough that we still tell versions of them today. None of this was their job. It was just life. So when did jobs actually begin? The shift happened about 12,000 years ago with agriculture. And it wasn't an upgrade. When humans started farming, something unexpected happened. They began working more, not less. Farming demands constant labor. Planting, weeding, harvesting, storing, protecting crops from animals and other humans. Fields don't take days off. Skeletons tell the story. When archaeologists compare the bones of hunter-gatherers to early farmers, the farmers show more signs of physical stress, disease, and malnutrition. Their teeth are worse. They're shorter. They die younger. Agriculture didn't make life easier. It made survival possible for more people in one place. But those people worked harder and lived shorter lives. And once you're farming, you can't just leave. Hunter-gatherers could move when resources depleted. Farmers were stuck. They'd invested months into crops. They'd built permanent structures. They had to stay and defend what they'd created. That's when ownership became important. When you're nomadic, you can't own much. You carry what you need. But farmers accumulate. They store grain. They claim land. And suddenly, some people have more than others. Then comes specialization. In a hunter-gatherer group, everyone knows how to do most things. But in agricultural societies, you get potters, weavers, builders, soldiers. People who only do one thing. And if you only do one thing, you need other people to survive. You need to trade. You need systems. You need hierarchy. That's where jobs came from. Not from progress, but from dependency. Once you specialize, you're trapped. A potter can't just decide to stop making pots and hunt instead. They've lost that knowledge. They rely on others. And here's the part that should bother you. We never chose this individually. No one woke up and decided jobs were better. It happened gradually, over thousands of years, as societies grew larger and more complex. By the time anyone realized what had been traded away, it was too late to go back. But what exactly did we trade away? We traded autonomy for security, and we've been trying to get it back ever since. Hunter-gatherers made decisions as groups. There were no bosses. No one could force you to do anything. If you didn't like how things were going, you could leave. Anthropologists call this fierce egalitarianism. It wasn't a political philosophy. It was survival. Groups that let one person dominate didn't last. But jobs require hierarchy. Someone owns the land, the tools, the product. Someone else provides the labor. That's not collaboration. That's a power structure. And once that structure exists, it spreads. Early cities had kings, priests, merchants, and laborers. The laborers worked the hardest and owned the least. They couldn't leave because they had nowhere to go. All the land was claimed. All the resources were controlled. Freedom became something only the wealthy could afford. For most of human history after agriculture, the average person worked from sunrise to sunset, 6 or 7 days a week. Farmers, servants, laborers. They worked until their bodies gave out. This wasn't a career, it was survival. The concept of a job as we know it, something separate from your entire existence, didn't really solidify until the Industrial Revolution. Factories needed workers at specific times doing specific tasks. You didn't work your land anymore. You sold your time. 8 hours, 10 hours, 14 hours a day in a building you didn't own, making products you'd never use, for wages that barely kept you alive. Children worked in coal mines. Women worked in textile mills, breathing cotton fibers that destroyed their lungs. People died in factory accidents so often, but it barely made the news. This was progress. This was civilization. Labor movements fought back. Unions demanded weekends, 8-hour workdays, safety regulations. These weren't gifts from generous employers. They were won through strikes, violence, and decades of resistance. The 40-hour workweek, which we now consider standard and even insufficient to survive on, was a radical demand in 1926. But here's what's strange. We won those battles, and then we just stopped. We accepted that 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, for 40 or 50 years of your life was reasonable. We built our entire society around it. Mortgages, car payments, insurance, retirement plans. Everything assumes you'll keep working. And it's still not enough. Productivity has exploded since the 1970s. Technology was supposed to free us. Computers, automation, the internet. We produce more per hour than ever before in human history. But wages stagnated. Work hours didn't decrease. We just work harder. The average American now works more hours per year than a medieval peasant. That's not an exaggeration. Medieval laborers had Sundays off, plus saints' days, harvest festivals, and long breaks in winter when there was little farm work. They worked hard during planting and harvest, but averaged around 1,500 hours per year. The modern American works over 1,800, often more. We have smartphones, but we're less free than people who lived in huts. We have medicine, but we're more stressed. We have abundance, but no time to enjoy it. Because jobs aren't just what we do anymore. They're who we are. When you meet someone, the first question is, what do you do? Not who are you? What do you love? What makes you feel alive? What do you do for money? Your job is your identity. Lose your job, and people think you've lost your purpose. But for 290,000 of the 300,000 years humans have existed, no one had a job. They had skills, roles, contributions. They had community. They had time. And they were us. Same brain, same capacity, same need for meaning. We didn't evolve to sit in chairs under fluorescent lights, staring at screens, answering emails, attending meetings about meetings. We evolved to move, to create, to connect, to rest when we're tired, and work when we're motivated. Jobs aren't natural. They're not inevitable. They're just the system we inherited. And maybe, just maybe, it's worth asking if the trade was worth it. Because we gave up a lot, and we're still paying the price. We call this civilization. We call it progress. But our ancestors, the ones who painted caves and carved flutes and knew every plant in their territory, they had something we're desperately trying to buy back with vacation days and retirement plans. They had their time, and we're still working to get ours.